Come here, man. Hurry, bro. Hurry up,
Did she shoot you?
Yeah, for now.
All right, lay down. Sit down here.
On the morning of November 27, 2022, a home in Edenberry Lane in Lithonia, Georgia, became the place of a shocking killing. The police became witnesses to a famous rapper collapsing to the ground as his baby mama shot him to death. Just hours earlier, multiple 911 calls were made by the 30-year-old Quenisha Johnson as she feared being abused by the 29-year-old DeMonte Smith. As the police responded to the 911 calls, they witnessed the arguing couple. Not long after, they left, thinking that there was no danger in that household. But just moments later, they heard the chilling gunshot that ended the rapper's life. What followed was a long fight for justice where a darker truth emerged, one more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. This is the life and death of DeMonte Smith. This story takes us to Lithonia, Georgia, which may be a small suburb, but it carries a unique character. Known as the City of Granite for its rich rock deposits, it offers a close-knit community feel and a slower pace compared to the bustling heart of Atlanta. Yet beneath its quiet charm, the city struggles with crime, its rate higher than the national average, a reminder that even in seemingly peaceful places, violence can erupt. It is here, against this backdrop of contrasts, that the events of DeMonte Smith's final day unfolded. DeMonte Smith was born in 1993 in Atlanta, Georgia, and by the age of 29, he was chasing a dream that consumed much of his life. He was an aspiring rapper, pouring his energy into music that reflected both his gritty upbringing and his determination to rise above it. His tracks, shared widely on social media, carried the voice of someone who had seen hardship yet refused to be defined by it. Friends and those close to him say he was always chasing something bigger, a career that might change everything for him.
Catch a op in traffic, he clapping, I bet I still hit him. I done lost a lot of niggas, now I'm learning to deal with him. I done shot a lot of niggas, trying to get a meal ticket. You ain't trying to get your hands dirty, what you in it for? I done robbed plenty folks, I done cut up plenty dope. And I know the nigga that shot my nigga, but he ain't standing though. And I heard he died and I survived, so what you panic for? Alright, stolo nigga, scat. Alright.
Before becoming a father, DeMonte poured nearly all of his time and energy into his craft, working to build connections in Atlanta's competitive music scene. School had been a stepping stone, and while little about his early years was shared publicly, one thing stood out. His passion for music was unwavering. He approached it with the discipline and commitment of a full-time job, a dedication that shaped not just his career, but the direction of his personal life as well. However, while his passion for music was intense, DeMonte was not without his flaws. His life away from the microphone sometimes brought dangerous attention, most notably when he and another man were arrested after leading Monroe County deputies on a high-speed chase into Butts County. Authorities said the two ignored orders to pull over, crashed into another vehicle on Interstate 75, and were found with marijuana packaged for distribution. DeMonte also faced charges for possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, multiple traffic violations, and had 2 active warrants for stalking and probation violation. This chapter of his life would serve as a turning point, a collision between ambition and trouble that set the stage for the next person who would enter his life. It was around this time that he met 30-year-old Quenisha Nicole Johnson, and their connection formed with striking speed. She soon became a constant presence by his side, appearing in many of his music videos, smiling beside him as if they shared both a life and a vision. In those early days, there was an undeniable warmth between them, a shared sense of ambition and a belief in each other's dreams. Quenisha already had 2 children before DeMonte entered her life. Given the charm and reassurance he showed her and the fact that he had nowhere to go after his trouble with the law, she allowed him to move in with her and her children. In time, the two welcomed their youngest child together, a moment that might have solidified their happiness, but appearances can be deceptive. Behind closed doors, Quenisha was enduring domestic violence, and the cracks in their relationship began to widen. What seemed unshakable from the outside was slowly but unmistakably breaking apart.
All of my life I've been wild and couldn't control it. And my mama couldn't control me. 8 years old, I was passing the doty. That nigga dead, he don't even know it. Off with his head, you know he gon' blow it.
Rock star, man. Y'all know a motherfucking rock star. Tell me something different. Tell me something different.
I know these little bitch, she cap it.
As it turns out, DeMonte's run-ins with the law were only a glimpse into a deeper and more dangerous side of his nature. Throughout their relationship, he had physically assaulted Quenisha on multiple occasions, abuse that, tragically, was not new for him given his history of violence. Despite the violence, Quenisha endured it for the sake of her children, hoping to keep her family together. But it was only a matter of time before that fragile balance would shatter, and the darkness beneath their relationship would come to the surface. And then came the night of November 26th, 2022. That evening, Quenisha went to a club with friends, leaving her 3 children in DeMonte's care. She told him she would be home around 6 a.m., but that time came and went. DeMonte couldn't reach her. Her phone was off. Hours earlier, before her phone went dark, Quenisha had told DeMonte she was about to get into a fight with a group of people. That single remark planted the first seed of tension. Concern soon gave way to frustration, and DeMonte began calling local hospitals and jails, desperately searching for her. By 9 a.m., when she finally turned her phone back on, she found a string of angry, threatening messages. In them, he made it clear he was upset and that he planned to hit her when she got home. For Quenisha, this was no idle threat. DeMonte, by multiple accounts, had a history of violence toward her, making every word in those messages feel urgent and dangerous. The tone of the day had shifted, and a sense of inevitability began to creep in. She contacted family members, and during a conference call with DeMonte, they urged her to return home with a police escort. She called 911 and asked for officers to meet her there. When she arrived home about 2 hours later, DeKalb County police officers were already waiting. One of them instructed her to put her firearm in her car, and she complied. Still, the tension between them was intense. In now chilling body cam footage taken from the attending police officers, the intense argument that transpired on the morning of November 27th, 2022 was captured.
I'm gonna know that's not a thing.
Well, you disappearing all that lying ass thing shit. You gonna get mad because I react.
He don't live here. He don't pay no bills. His name not on the lease. He don't have no mail. There's nothing here that's his besides a trash bag full of clothes that he got from the DeKalb County jail. He can take that and he can go. And he can put my daughter in the house if she get colic, because I'm gonna have to deal with that.
Man, ain't not touching my daughter, so shut your fucking mouth.
That's down. Touch my daughter. You can put my daughter in the house though.
Nah.
Your name not on the birth certificate, so therefore it's not your daughter. It's mine.
You ain't got no name on your birth certificate.
It is. I do. Let me go get it.
Watch out, bro.
Hey, please.
I don't want my baby out here. The wind is blowing. She don't have a head on.
Just give her the baby.
Give me my baby.
What about your other baby? She been gone all night.
Or I'm worried
you don't care about your
baby.
baby.
You ain't care about it either. That's why I got locked up when she was here.
Hey, we not finna fight over this baby.
Give me my baby though. Like, she's gonna get colic.
Give us a second. We're gonna bring him back inside.
I'm gonna get the birth certificate. He's not on it. At this point, it's not to be. And if y'all want to do a DNA test to identify that.
Nah, this thing, no. You ain't going that far.
But
you allowed it.
You forgot where you went 3 hours?
I want you to look at my daughter's diaper. I'm dad's dead.
Nah, nigga, I was changing her diaper.
Where your other kids?
I was changing her diaper.
Where your other kids?
With their mama.
In the video, you could see DeMonte coming out with their baby in his arms as Quenisha and DeMonte argued in front of the officers, their voices raised, their words sharp. Officers tried to calm them, but Quenisha talked over them at times, her anger spilling out. The officers decided to separate them temporarily and told them to go inside and cool off. But before doing so, they posed a chilling question, one that would foreshadow the deadly event that was about to come. She asked what would happen if she shot DeMonte in self-defense, adding that she had already looked up Georgia's self-defense laws.
So when I shoot him, after I done called the cops and did everything I was supposed to do.
Just make sure you can articulate
I can.
what's going on.
I can. I'm showing you.
You better really be able to articulate that.
I can. This is my household. He have no residency, nothing.
Make sure you read up on it and make sure you can articulate when it comes to
I've done that. I did that before I got my license.
Okay.
All right.
After they got in, the officers stayed outside to see if the situation might calm. and with the situation seemingly calming, the officers leave. Unbeknownst to them, the situation was just about to take a darker turn. Inside the home, the verbal altercation continued, and what happened inside would remain a mystery. But what happened next would stun the police. Quenisha returned to her car, retrieved a metal tire iron and her gun, and went back inside. She instructed one of her children to call 911 and claim that DeMonte had hit her, something that would later be key evidence in the case. Moments later, inside the home, the conflict reached its breaking point. Quenisha struck DeMonte in the head with the tire iron, then shot him in the chest. The gunshot was captured on the 911 recording, followed by her chilling repetition of the word, bye.
Come here, man. Everything hurt, bro.
Oh, yeah,
Did she shoot you?
Yeah, before I die.
All right, let's sit down here. Where is it at? Is it all?
Staggering, DeMonte managed to get outside to the officers, gasping that she had hit him in the head with the tire iron and shot him. In a chilling note, he pleaded for the police to hurry before he dies. Moments later, he collapsed. Quenisha was arrested instantly, right there in front of her children. As officers placed her under custody, she could be heard saying, "I told you to help me." At police headquarters, she admitted that DeMonte had not hit her that day. Investigators discovered that he had actually requested a ride share to leave the house, but was killed just minutes before it arrived. The charges she faced were severe: malice murder, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and cruelty to children, since the shooting happened in front of them. Prosecutors argued there was no imminent threat to her safety, and that once she armed herself, her intent was to kill. The defense claimed she was protecting herself from a man with a violent past, and that police had failed to protect her despite her repeated calls for help. As the case moved toward trial, the chilling details, the warning to officers, the retrieval of the tire iron and gun, and the gunshot in front of children would become the central points in a tense courtroom battle. The trial would bring every moment of that night under the microscope as the case gained wide traction in media coverage. Prosecutors painted a picture of a calculated act, a woman who, after arguing with her boyfriend, chose to arm herself and confront him rather than remove herself from danger.
Now, when your mom came into the house that day, she asked you to call 911?
Yes.
She gave you her phone?
Yes.
And did you know that there were police already outside that day?
No.
Okay. Did she tell you why she wanted you to call 911?
Cause he was hitting her.
Okay. And was she scared that he was going to hit her? Did she tell you why she wanted you to call 911?
Cause he was hitting her.
Okay. Your mom went up the stairs?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw the man from Dolo, you saw him hit your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Could you see from where you were downstairs, could you see everything that was happening upstairs?
Not everything.
Okay. Could you see your mom?
For a second.
And could you see Dolo?
Yes.
And you said that you heard a gunshot?
Yes.
Did you actually see a gun? You see your mom pull a gun and shoot?
I didn't see her pull the gun.
Right. You just heard the gunshot?
Yes.
Okay.
They emphasized her own admission that he hadn't laid a hand on her that night, and that she had asked the police about shooting him before the fatal shot was fired. The defense countered with a different narrative. They described Quenisha as a woman trapped in a cycle of abuse, pointing to DeMonte's documented history of violence, not just toward her, but toward other women. They argued that the threat was not just in the moment, but ingrained in their relationship, that every heated word from him carried the weight of past assaults. But the jury was yet to hear the devastating evidence that would help lead to justice. Jurors heard the 911 recordings, their content as disturbing as the events they captured. In one, the crack of the gunshot was followed by Quenisha's repeated farewell, a cold, deliberate bye that prosecutors argued reflected intent, not fear. They also heard DeMonte's final plea for help, his voice strained and fading, moments before he collapsed outside. Witness testimony from the officers at the scene became a focal point. They confirmed hearing her question about self-defense before she went inside and acknowledged that they had not physically separated the two or removed either from the home. The defense seized on this, suggesting law enforcement had left her vulnerable to an abuser known for violent outbursts. Still, the prosecution stressed that the presence of police minutes before the shooting proved she had alternatives to lethal force. Their argument hinged on the idea that once she retrieved the tire iron and firearm, she had moved from defense to offense. As the courtroom dissected those minutes, the timeline became critical. DeMonte's request for a rideshare, a small but pivotal detail, showed he was preparing to leave. The prosecution leaned heavily on this, arguing that if she had waited mere minutes, the confrontation might have ended without bloodshed. The defense, however, urged jurors to consider the psychological toll of repeated abuse. They brought up past reports of violence, some of which were never heard by the jury in full, but acknowledged by the court.
Quanisha Johnson pleaded for protection, filed for help, and she was left defenseless by police officers who knew better. She was left defenseless against a serial abuser by police officers who knew better. He says in those text messages, when you get home, I'm gonna beat your ass on Crip. On Crip. I'm gonna beat your ass on Crip. That's what he says in those text messages.
For someone in Quanisha's position, the threat never really left the room, even if the abuser did. Family members of both sides sat through the proceedings, their faces a mixture of grief, anger, and exhaustion. For DeMonte's loved ones, each detail of his final moments was a wound reopened. For Quanisha's supporters, it was a battle to prove she was not the cold-blooded killer the prosecution described. When Quanisha took the stand, she maintained her version of events. She admitted to striking and shooting DeMonte, but framed it as a desperate act, fueled by fear that the abuse would continue once officers were gone. She described her state of mind, not calm, not calculated, but panicked and defensive. The cross-examination was unrelenting. Prosecutors confronted her with inconsistencies, pressing her on why she armed herself if she did not intend to use the gun, and why she told a child to call 911 with a false claim about being hit. Each question chipped away at her credibility in the eyes of the state. After days of testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. The weight of their decision was heavy, not only determining Quanisha's guilt, but defining the nature of what had happened in that Lithonia home. Hours passed, and when they returned, the verdict was a mix of acquittal and conviction. Quanisha was found not guilty of malice murder. The jury did not believe the killing had been planned in cold blood, but they did find her guilty of voluntary manslaughter, 2 counts of aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and cruelty to children. It was a decision that satisfied neither side completely. For DeMonte's family, it felt like too little accountability for the loss of his life. For Quanisha's supporters, it was a battle to prove she was not the cold-blooded killer the prosecution described. As the trial moved into the sentencing phase, emotions ran even higher. DeMonte's mother delivered a heart-wrenching statement, speaking of the call that shattered her world, the moment she knew her son was gone, and the pain of losing him in such a violent way.
They called me and told me, "Ma'am, do you know a DeMonte Smith?" And my heart dropped. I had to describe my son to this woman. To this man. And I knew at that moment that he was gone. And I couldn't get it together. I blacked out. And then the detective called me. And my first words was, "Where is she?" They said, "Who? Where is the woman that killed my son?" Because I knew it was you. A darkness dwelled inside of you. Well, on this stand, you want to cry. But you weren't doing it then. Throwing lavish parties, making your flyers so you could perform on the pole. You didn't care about my son. Not one time. If you did, you would have known how hurtful and how painful it was to see all that stuff over social media like he was nothing.
She condemned Quanisha, saying she had shown no remorse, no empathy, and deserved every year the court could give her. The judge, weighing the aggravating and mitigating factors, acknowledged the failures on the night of the shooting, including the decision by police to leave the couple together without a cooling-off period. Still, the court concluded that Quanisha had taken deliberate steps that led to DeMonte's death. When the sentence was read, 20 years, with 10 to be served in confinement and the rest on probation, including 5 years of house arrest, the reactions were immediate. Some saw it as lenient, others as harsh. The courtroom, like the case itself, remained deeply divided.
Ms. Johnson, I will sentence you as follows. As to voluntary manslaughter, I will sentence you to 20 years to serve 10 years in confinement. The first 5 years of those 10 years to be served in prison, and the remaining 5 years to be served as home confinement. The remaining 10 years of the 20-year sentence will be served on probation. Special conditions of the 5 years of home confinement is that you must be fully employed. You can only leave your house for work, medical appointments, school, and for minor children, school appointments, minor children's therapy appointments, and minor children's school-sponsored activities.
But even after the sentencing, this case hasn't reached its conclusion. Quanisha's legal team quickly announced its intent to appeal, setting the stage for yet another chapter in a case already marked by conflict and controversy. The sentencing may have closed one chapter, but the story of DeMonte Smith and Quanisha Johnson was far from over. Almost immediately after the verdict, her defense team filed for an appeal bond, a move that would allow her to remain free while challenging the conviction. Against the state's objections, the judge granted it, meaning Quanisha walked out of the courthouse that day instead of beginning her prison term. Outside the courtroom, she was met by her family, children, and supporters. Reporters asked how she felt, and she spoke carefully, insisting she was remorseful even if she didn't show it in the way others expected. She said she loved DeMonte and wished the night had ended differently, but maintained that she acted out of fear.
They say people show no remorse. I'm very remorseful. Just because I don't sit there and cry, and I can't cry on cue. I'm mentally disturbed. I'm disturbed and whole, I can't stress it enough. I love DeMonte, not still mistaken. I'll call him.
What would you change about that night if you feel bad?
Well, I didn't know where to go, but if I could have got my kids and left, which I was aiming to do, I don't really think there's anything else that I could have changed. That was my home, my kids is in there, all I want to do is retrieve my kids.
The appeal itself promised to reignite every controversy from the trial. For DeMonte's loved ones, it felt like justice delayed. The man they lost would not be honored with the full weight of the sentence until the appeal process was exhausted. For Quanisha's supporters, the bond was a chance to prove she was wrongfully convicted of a crime she committed in a desperate bid to protect herself. The court of public opinion remained split. Some saw her as a victim who had finally reached her breaking point after enduring abuse. Others believed she had crossed a line that could never be walked back, taking a life in front of children and police officers when there were other options. Months after the trial, the appeal was still pending, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on both families. No matter the outcome, one truth could not be undone. A young father's life had been cut short. A mother would forever carry the burden of having pulled the trigger, and their child would grow up without either parent fully present. The events of that November morning left a mark on the Lithonia community, a reminder that domestic disputes can escalate in seconds, that the presence of law enforcement doesn't always guarantee safety, and that in the chaos of fear, one irreversible choice can change countless lives. As of now, there are no updates on the case. The final word is still to be written by the appeals court. And until that decision comes, the question of whether justice was truly served will hang in the air, just as divisive and haunting as the moment begun went off.